In Russia tonight, state television is not showing these stunning images. Russians cheering for the leader of this weekend's aborted rebellion and his soldiers as they leave the city of Rostov-on-Don. Their mutiny bringing the country to the brink of chaos less than 24 hours ago, when Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, led a march to Moscow in response to what he called an attack on his fighters. Tanks and mercenary troops took to the streets, moving within 120 miles of the Russian capital. Before an unprecedented deal with President Putin, brokered by another president, Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko, apparently allowing the man behind the insurrection to go unpunished and into exile. All that's left behind in Rostov-on-Don, occupied by his fighters for less than a day, tank tracks and questions. How can one, in a situation where we are in conflict with another country, have an internal war as well, this man asks. It was unexpected and somehow incomprehensible, says this woman. Very stressful. Today, we're all recovering from the stress. It was the biggest challenge to Vladimir Putin's power in 23 years. The president called Prigozhin's rebellion a betrayal and a stab in the back.
What's so striking about it is it's internal. The fact that you have from within someone directly questioning Putin's authority. The very fact that over the weekend, Wagner forces were coming out of Ukraine and going into Russia and toward Moscow in and of itself is extraordinary.
NBC News has learned that US intelligence agencies were aware that Prigozhin was planning a challenge to Russia's senior military leaders, briefing congressional leaders about it last week, according to a source familiar with the matter. Some Russian media tonight saying a senseless massacre was avoided with maturity, while the US and Ukraine sensing weakness at the heart of the Kremlin.
Putin right now is in real trouble. His army, 1.4 million people in the security forces, didn't step in and really squash this rebellion. As we're talking, the Chinese, the Indians, the Brazilians, the Middle East are trying to reassess how likely is Putin to survive much longer.
At the very least, President Putin has more problems today than he did yesterday, with unknown consequences for his so-called special military operation in Ukraine. The more we hear the Russians have conflicts, this Ukrainian soldier says, the more it raises our fighting spirit. We didn't hear from President Putin or Yevgeny Prigozhin today, Hallie, and yet their next moves may determine Russia's future.
And Keir, at one point it seemed like Russia was on the brink of civil war. Instability can be a concern in any country, but especially so in this one, in Russia.
That's so right. You know, 24 hours ago, Hallie, I thought I might be standing here talking about Russians fighting Russians here on the streets of Moscow. And just think about this. Russia controls around half the world's nuclear warheads, and it was on the brink of chaos.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.